And once again, everybody, welcome to another edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast. Where, of course, here's Shirley, Charles, Pride, Richie, as we are still right now on the continued U.S. presidential election right now, awaiting the final results, hopefully in the next week or two. We're going to keep it on a much more positive note, which is everybody's favorite bread and butter. I'm talking about another Pittsburgh Steeler Insight Football right now. Steelers right now 7-0 for the first time since 1978, looking to make history as a franchise, not only for the team, but also Mike Tomlin himself. If he's able to win this Sunday, it will confirm his 14th straight season with a record of at least 500 or above, no losing seasons. He'll be passing Don Shula and now be joining Marty Schottenheimer as the only other coach in NFL history, which was noted by Missy Matthews to start off a season in their first 14 years without having any losing record of any significance. So we should definitely be expecting that as a matter of time right now, the way they're kicking off. Definitely some good stuff right there, and some exciting times for this season right now. As the season continues to go along, you're starting to hear more whispers a little bit more. Can this team run the table? I'm not really concerned about that. I just wanted to see this team just continue on the ultimate goal, winning the Super Bowl. And plus, tomorrow we're going to have a bonus show this week. I'll be having none other than NFL writer for CBS, Brian Diardo. He'll be joining me tomorrow to discuss the latest power rankings right now. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing very dandly in that area, as they have been number one in 5 out of 8 power ranking platforms. And we'll get into that in just a moment. Once again, if you guys want to follow me on social media, you have to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Project Richie. For the Mass Steel Podcast on Twitter, you can simply follow me at Mass Steel CGR, at Mass Steel Nation on Instagram. And we got some fun, exciting stuff right now. Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers versus Cowboys right now, one of my all-time favorite rivalries. Despite the fact the Cowboys are struggling mightily, 2-6, believe it or not, they still feel like they are in this division race in the NFC East. And I got to tell you, I definitely agree with Mean Joe Green and many others. When you look at having an impressive victory against the Baltimore Ravens, now you want to just show how you can follow up that victory right there. At the same time, because you got the Baltimore Ravens, they will be facing the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday in Indianapolis. And right now, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, the Ravens, you got to believe they're trying to bounce back in a hurry. That's going to be a 12 o'clock game Central Time. And the Colts definitely got a real good top defense in their own right. I mean, when we look at this season, everything they have been doing so far, I mean, when you got a guy like Phillip Rivers has come over, done around a marvelous defense right there. I mean, when you take a look at everything, I mean, the Steelers, they will be facing the Colts in week number 16, let's not forget, later on in the season. That is going to be in Pittsburgh. It won't be in Indianapolis. And when we take a look at that game, as we take a look at the Colts team right now, they are number one in total defense at 2,054 yards and are number 3 in points defense. So, I mean, you look at factors right there, too. And then the biggest thing, too, I mean, for the Colts coming up, too, I mean, they're also in the top 10 in takeaways. They are 9th with 12 altogether right there. And a lot of those takeaways have been courtesy of the interception right there. They're tied for first with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 11. And, I mean, that's the name of the game right there. I mean, will the Colts be able to replicate what the Steelers did and what the Chiefs did? Try and make Lamar Jackson a pocket passer. I mean, that's the thing right there. I mean, you look at Lamar Jackson, I think that was just huge right there for last week's victory, as they were able to gut out and pull out. And, I mean, you look at a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, who still gets quite a few questions, given what he's been doing at this age. I mean, when you really think about it and you really break it down for everything, and that's all I got to say for right now. I mean, it's really impressionable. And I mean, right there. I mean, it's really some stuff right there as we take a look at everything going on right now. I mean, with this team here. I mean, it's definitely a very interesting debate right there. You got people from the Sunday night football crew right there. I mean, definitely feels like it's definitely one of Big Ben's best years right now for this season. And yeah, I can't definitely deny what they've been doing right now up to this point. I mean, when you take a look at it, I mean, it's just definitely some phenomenal happenings going on right here. Rodney Harrison, he definitely feels like this is one of Big Ben Roethlisberger's best game. His best seasons he's seen as a quarterback, coming off a major elbow surgery right there. I mean, and just find ways to win right here because some people are definitely starting to look at it right now. Even Michael Irvin, who was actually on Showtime yesterday, filling in for Brandon Marshall with Phil Simms, James Brown, and Ray Lewis. I mean, they were talking about right now, and you look at the Steelers' main schedule, Michael the Playmaker Irvin, Pro Football Hall of Famer, three-time Super Bowl champion, he feels right now the Steelers got a legitimate shot to run the table for the rest of this regular season right now. Because when you truly look at it right now, I mean, let's take a look at their schedule once again. You got this Sunday going on the road in AT&T Stadium against the Dallas Cowboys, home against the Bengals right after that, on the road against Jacksonville, home against the Ravens 4 days later on Thanksgiving. And then you got the Washington football team at home, followed by the Buffalo Bills on the road. Then you got the Bengals on the road. So Sunday, Monday night football games. Then you got the Colts at home, and then the Browns on the road. I mean, right there. I mean, one of the teams that still people continue to watch out for is Cincinnati Bengals right there. I mean, they definitely feel like they could still be a team that could sneak up on some people, make a run down this stretch, despite having only 2 victories, I believe it is, for this season. I mean, this is a team with Joe Burrow who's starting to gain some confidence, starting to have some fun, have some energy right there. And a team, I mean, you never know. I mean, they could probably be one of the first teams to give the Steelers their first loss. We don't know that. I mean, even the Cowboys. So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, when you truly look at it for right there, I mean, in that perspective, I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting scenario right there. I mean, you got 5 more games the rest of the way that will be on the road. I mean, for the remaining stretch of this season. So 5 games on the road. So again, that's going to be the Dallas Cowboys, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then you're going to be having the Bills, Bengals, and then the Browns. So 5 out of the remaining 9 games on the road. That's going to definitely be a challenging thing right there, too. Once again, for those of you tuning in, we are counting down to this Sunday when the Steelers travel to AT&T Stadium to take on the Dallas Cowboys right now, who are 2-6. Pittsburgh Steelers will definitely be looking for their very first win in AT&T Stadium. This would be their first win in the new stadium. They haven't won in Dallas in a long time. That was at Old Texas Stadium, let's not forget. And that happened back on October 17th, 2004, where they won that game in Ben Roethlisberger's rookie season, 24-20. Bill Parcells was the head coach at that time, and I want to say Vinny Testaverde was their starting quarterback for that year. The last time they were there in Dallas was 2012, on December 16th. Lost that game at 3:25 p.m., 24-27. The biggest moment that stood out for me in that game, I felt like the Steelers were in control of that game right there. A key Antonio Brown fumble on the punt return. Cowboys were able to get back into it. Eventually, later on, a few possessions later, the game was able to go into overtime. The Cowboys, I think, won it with a touchdown victory, I want to say, in that contest, and were able to upset the Steelers. A huge loss right there. I felt that cost them the playoffs that year. As we take a look at it right now, and one of the things too, Andy Dalton, who's actually had to recently step in and be the guy filling in for Dak Prescott, I mean, whose season ended against the Giants earlier this year, about not even a month ago. When you look at like what's happening right there, I mean, with everything that's going on, remember this guy who went into concussion protocol last week, and right now he's going to, after clearing concussion protocol, now he's going to have to miss his second straight game, not because of the concussion protocol, but he is placed in the COVID-19 on the reserve and COVID-19 list on Tuesday. Now, remember, with the COVID-19 list, they don't usually get into like medical reasons, what is wrong. They usually kind of keep that private. So he is on that list right there. So he will definitely not be in this game this Sunday when it comes to facing the Steelers right now. So they will not be seeing an old foe right there going in there. And right now, ESPN NFL Nation reporter for the Cowboys, Todd Archer, he reports that Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush split the snaps in Wednesday's practice in their competition to be the Cowboys starting quarterback Sunday for Pittsburgh. And coming from Ezekiel Elliott, no, I haven't been through a season with 4 quarterbacks, Elliott did say. And when we also look at it too, rookie Ben DiNucci, who actually started the last game against the Eagles in Philadelphia, got their butts handed to them 23-9, completing 21-40 passes for 180 yards. They will not be facing him. He was sacked 4 times, lost 2 fumbles, including one that was returned for a touchdown. Gilbert, he was serving as a number 2 quarterback behind Andy Dalton, and the Cowboys added Cooper Rush to the practice squad last week. Rush has completed the COVID-19 protocols. So there you have it right there for the Cowboys going into this week right now. As we look at, it's going to come down between Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush. More than likely, it's going to probably be Cooper Rush at this point in time, but we shall see. Right now, I mean, when you look at it, and when you look at former ESPN columnist, when we look at John Clayton, he definitely seems to think it's to be Garrett Gilbert, who was actually on 93.7 The Fan earlier this afternoon. And he was talking with Andrew Filippoli and Chris Mueller right there. And, I mean, he definitely seems to be that guy. But speaking of John Clayton, too, I mean, he definitely seems to think that right now, if he had to choose a Coach of the Year candidate, he definitely would pencil in a guy like Mike Tomlin for right now. And usually said it usually goes a lot to like first or second year coaches when you're trying to turn things around. But when you look at the stuff that Mike Tomlin has been able to put up with, I mean, including especially last year without Ben Roethlisberger for pretty much for at least 90% of the season. I mean, everything that he's been doing and what he's been doing with less, especially this year, and now having Ben Roethlisberger back on top of that and truly turn this defense into something special right now. I mean, for right now, I mean, it's almost his to lose right now at this point in time, Mike Tomlin. Now, I mean, I would love to see him get there for the first time in his career. I just mentioned a few short moments ago that he has a chance to make history right now by tying Mari Schottenheimer, former NFL coach of the Browns, the Chargers, and then in between that, the Chiefs. So the Browns, Chiefs, and Chargers, who started off his coaching career 14 straight seasons while losing season. Pretty much at some point in the next few week or two, and maybe this Sunday, we shall see. But Mike Tomlin, whenever that 8th victory of the season does come, it'll definitely clinch starting off his first 14 years as coaching without a losing record. That is something pretty special to behold right there. And you look at it too. And speaking of which, too, I know the Steelers, they just recently acquired inside linebacker Avery Williamson right now. Now, because of the COVID protocol from the positive test that resulted for Marlon Humphrey on Sunday right now, I mean, you look at it right now on that. So they got to follow COVID restrictions right now. The team had to go into a larger facility right now, according to Ben Roethlisberger right now, and they're going to have to doing their meetings virtually going into this week. So they definitely that's going to be, I think, a little bit of a challenge right there, if you ask me. But I mean, at the same time, I don't think so. Not really. I'm looking at this team right now. I mean, when we look at here, This is a team right now. I mean, when you look at a guy like Mike Tomlin, I mean, those are just many reasons why he deserves to be coach of the year at this point in time. Everything that all the coaches in the league have been having to deal with COVID protocols, especially in the world of sports. Just all the way that he's been keeping in touch with everybody, the way everybody's been communicating with each other. I think the continuity right there. I think if anything, when you're a markings of a good coach is able to communicate effectively with your players, regardless of the circumstances right there. And at the same time, too, I mean, just the standard that he continues to set, the bar that's being set. I mean, listen, this is a team who realizes right now they cannot be asleep at the wheel when you build something up like this. They realize that all eyes are paying attention to them. Now, as far as like Avery Williamson, too, aside from that, when we also look at Tim Benz, who actually writes for Trib Live, one of the Pittsburgh beat writers too. Right now, from a long-term standpoint, according to Mike Tomlin, he was quoting as saying, "We have a vision of him being a third inside linebacker." Tomlin said, "A guy that's position flexible, a guy that's capable of supporting Robert Spillane and Vince Williams, and being available if anything should happen to either." And that's the plan for right now. Tim Benz does seem to think that maybe that will increase a little bit once they face the Ravens for the second and final time during the regular season, that he might expect a lot more snaps from this guy. And we'll find out how that is. And when you look at where he's recently came from like the New York Jets right now, I mean, as far as like this season, everything that he's been able to do, I mean, right now, I mean, this guy has right now he's taken 38. Oh, excuse me, he's taken 355 snaps on defense, accumulating for 65% right there. And look at everything. And, I mean, John Clayton definitely really likes this guy a lot. I mean, it definitely feels like this is be someone that could be very effective for this team. Granted, he's not made a Pro Bowl just yet, but I mean, when you look at it too, I mean, he has had 14 and a half sacks along with 25 quarterback hits, and he's been able to create 7 takeaways in his 7 seasons in his football career with the Titans and the Jets. I mean, 4 interceptions total, and then 3 fumble recoveries. This year it has only been 1 pick, and that's about it. He's had 59 total tackles, 36 of them being solo, and that was about it. And that's where we're going to see right there how he could be put into use right here. Because I got to tell you right now, the thing that I continue to say about the Steelers team right now as we head into it, the thing that I like versus where it was in 2017, they got enough time right now to regroup and plan a lot more. Because remember, when Ryan Shazier got hit with that spinal contusion injury, when he injured himself against Bengals trying to make that tackle, which ultimately cost him his career, basically, you got to look at it this way. That was so late in the season where they pretty much had to scramble right there. I mean, they did get John Bostic not too long after that, but still, I mean, just having to rotate the guys that late in the season, they were still on a tremendous win streak at that point in time. They did go out to finish the season 13-3 for that season. But when you look at around that time, too, I mean, when we think about where things were landing at that point in time. I mean, when we do look at it here, I mean, at that point, I mean, they were a team that was rallying right there. I mean, at that point, they had like about 8 victories. They were 8-0 right there ever since losing their second game to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So 11-2, then going 11-3 and finish out 2-0 the rest of the way, aside from that Patriot loss. I mean, so that was the thing. It was just it was a gut shot punch at that point in time is what I'm trying to say. I think this time they got a lot more time where, I mean, let's think, should the history repeat itself? Let's just say if the injury did happen again with Devin Bush and Point after the trade deadline, I mean, you really do have to force yourself to go in-house and look at guys you could probably call up from your practice squad right now. And when we look at that too, speaking of the practice squad right now, I mean, when we really look at it and put things together here, I mean, remember, he had the practice squad expand up to 15, 60 guys due cases where you have COVID breakout possibly. And I mean, the only other guys maybe you could probably think about is J-Ron Elliott, and then Ray Wilborn. And I mean, those are about it right there. So I mean, that's the thing right there. So it was just nice enough to see they knew they were going to need a position to fill that need, and I think they definitely got a good contributor, a real good depth guy right there, a guy who I think could definitely help out like a guy like Vince Williams too. Because I think the guy like Vince Williams too. Because remember, he's special for like a lot of those third down stops when on this team, if you ask me. And that's what I tend to think usually happens. A lot of it, I mean, in these times, is that they're going to find ways to get their roles figured out. And I definitely do feel like for right now, I mean, going into this game, yeah, it is going to be an interesting game versus the Cowboys. We're going to be playing a desperate Cowboys team, like it or not, at the end of the day. And we'll see how this thing continues to get figured out right now. Let's go ahead and get into the injury report for this week versus the Week 9 matchup versus the Cowboys right now. As far as we look at the injury report going into this week right now, the Steelers have listed 3 starters, 4 total players altogether who did not practice. We have 2 of them which are non-injury related, which is, of course, quarterback Ben Roethlisberger and center Marquise Pouncey. The other guys who did not practice were nose tackle Tyson Alualu with a knee injury, and guard Stefan Wisniewski, remember, who was placed on the IR shortly after that Giants victory, the opening game victory of the season. And you look at the rest of the injury report on here for this week going into this game. Yeah, the good news is, too, you got Mike Hilton, their nickel defensive back right there, who was dealing with a shoulder injury the last couple of weeks. He was limited in practice, so that's good. I mean, he got a little bit of progress right there. We'll see if he's going to be able to be good to go this Sunday. I think he would definitely be a huge addition to this team. He also had a backup safety, Jordan Dangerfield, dealing with a quadriceps injury. He was a full participant. And then you also had nose tackle Isaiah Buggs dealing with an ankle injury. He was limited in practice. And then about not too long after, I want to say like an hour later, after the initial practice squad that was brought up by Brooke Pryor for the Steelers, Cam Hayward, defensive tackle, left defensive end, had a quadriceps injury, but he was a full participant, so that's good news for this contest. As far as the Cowboys, they list 3 starters, 3 players total. Ezekiel Elliott, the running back, punter Chris Jones, and last but not least, their defensive primary rusher, Aldon Smith right there. You got Ezekiel Elliott, who's dealing with a hamstring injury. He was limited in practice. Chris Jones, who's dealing with an abdomen injury. He did not practice. It doesn't appear he's going to be in this Sunday's game. And then Aldon Smith, dealing with a knee injury. He was limited in practice for this week. And that's the injury report going into this week for week number 9 as it pertains for this game right here. And we'll see how things continue to shake itself out for this contest. But Mean Joe Green, he did have an opportunity to speak with Ed Bouchette of The Athletic in an online interview. Did like a brief catching up with him. Now, don't forget, you got a guy like Mean Joe Green who grew up in Texas, who was born and raised there, went to school there. And when we take a look at it, as far as going into this game right now, as we take a look at it here, he said that this game coming up is going to be a trap game that he declared Tuesday on the phone from his Texas home, right off of a big conference game against probably your number 1 nemesis and on the road. He goes on to say, Mean Joe, there's a little bit of woo after the Ravens game where you're going home. You have to fight against the letdown because you were building yourself up so much to play the Ravens, and now you got the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys were 7-0 like we are. This doesn't even come into play. They've won 2 ball games, and they're struggling right now. So there's a tendency, if you're not a real pro, to let up a little bit. You don't constantly do it, just happens mentally. Need all the guys thinking that these are the Cowboys we played in all those Super Bowls, and every time we play them, it's knockdown, drag out, Green said. That's the team we're playing, not the one that we're facing this week. I'm going to get in the fair or foul just a little bit earlier right now, because I do got a few more topics I'm going to bring up, and then we're going to close for the night. Fair or foul that this Sunday's game will be a trap game for the Cowboys? Absolute 100% agree with that. Listen, I mean, when you look at the things that overall, I mean, in these situations, you do got you want a big game like that against the Ravens. Been winning some big games all year. I mean, starting with the Cleveland Browns, going on the road against the Tennessee Titans and the Baltimore Ravens right there. So, I mean, you look at those last three games, I mean, those are your first winning opponents you faced all season. Granted, you did face a pair of playoff teams in the Texans, the Eagles, the Titans, and the Ravens. I mean, when we look at it right there, so you face four playoff teams, you're 4-0 in those contests right now. I mean, it's still important not to get caught up, what you accomplished recently. I definitely do feel like right there, I mean, it's important. I mean, to not take your foot off the gas. And you got to definitely want to keep that mental edge right now that it's like, listen, big game, but at the same time, too, it's still part of a journey, what we're going through as a team, that we know this is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to be hosting that Lombardi Trophy in February as planned. Now, the only thing is, I still continue to get a little nervous. Speaking of the Lombardi Trophy right now, I'm just curious to see, and John Clayton was thinking too. He hopes to God that this does not happen, where we see a thing happen where more bye weeks continue to get lost due to COVID. He definitely said it wasn't a plan, but it's more of a reaction in the fact that if that does continue to happen, remember, they may expand the playoffs to one more seed, add to the initial 7, so 8 seeds per conference, so which makes 16 teams total. If that does happen, guess what that means? That will eliminate the first round byes. No more byes for this season for the top seed as was supposed to be. So that would mean the Steelers would have to go all 4 rounds if approved. Now, remember, we've been hearing reports initially from Chris Mortensen of ESPN. He's a senior NFL writer with them and reporter. And the NFL Competition Committee has been trying to present this right now to the owners right there and see what their feel is. So this is still a possibility if we do see a little bit more red flags along the way. Personally, I don't want to see it. I mean, it would just suck. I mean, for what the Steelers had to endure for this whole season, I mean, it would definitely just be a little disappointing that you start off this hot and it's you can't really clinch a bye for this year. Because that bye, I think with when you got a guy like an older quarterback and a guy like Ben Roethlisberger and some veteran guys here on here like a Cam Hayward and a Marquise Pouncey, you want to take advantage of that extra rest you could have to kind of give yourself a little bit more comfortability right here. I mean, the last time the Steelers did have a bye, what happened? They were 1 out. I understand that, but at the same time, too, I think the rhythm that they're in right now, I will make the argument, like I said, everything happened. So everything shit just started hitting the fan at that point in time with Shazier's injury and then losing a controversial game to the New England Patriots. Controversial overturned touchdowns initially by Jesse James. So when you think about all those things in perspective, it is important to have that bye. So I do want to pay a few shouts right now for people who join me on the Instagram stream. I got Tongo_C21. What's up, buddy? Thank you very much for joining. I got Oof8. Thank you very much. King Will 741. What's up, Will? And then K Steeler 74. Elman and whoever you are, thank you very much for joining real quick. Just feel free, leave me your final score predictions going for this Sunday's matchup in Dallas against the Cowboys in AT&T Stadium. I'd like to hear your thoughts real quick. We're getting the wrap up right now in just a second. Now, a few other headlines before we go ahead and close this out right now, too, when we look at it. This will be the last topic. Jerry Jones usually makes a regular appearance on 105 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. That's their radio station for like the fan family sports radio station. He said that the Cowboys, there's a high improbability that the Cowboys will make a trade. One player who isn't going anywhere, according to Jerry Jones, is Aldon Smith. He goes on to say, in quote, "I think it's been a positive how he's evolved," Jones said. "He's a different player than he was, but that doesn't make it a negative. I like his focus. I like his attitude. I like his attitude about the future. I'm not interested in doing anything about Aldon." And there have been no talks about regarding the extension. Now, remember the contract that Aldon Smith did sign back in April this year. He signed a 1-year, $2 million contract with the Cowboys on April 2nd, 2020. Smith, he received no guarantees, but will earn roster bonuses based on his reinstatement and good standing with the team at various reporting dates in the offseason. $650,000 of the contract is tied per game bonuses. And then the other part of it, too, that makes up that $2 million contract is a $440,000 roster bonus. He will be earning a base salary this year of $910,000 with a cap savings of $1.35 million. And that is their cap hit for this season. So we'll take a look at that. Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition here of the Master Podcast. Remember to tune in tomorrow, Thursday. More than likely, I will be joined by Brian Diardo. We'll be going over the NFL power rankings for all teams as they are heading into week number 9 for this season right here. And the Steelers right now, like I said, 5 out of 8 power ranking platforms. They have been number 1 on, which included CBS right there, which is one of Brian's platforms where he writes. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Brian Diardo. They're also number 1 on ESPN, Pro Football Talk, USA Today, and Sports Illustrated. I mean, so that's pretty darn impressive right now. The only ones that have not been number 1 on is NFL.com and the Sporting News, and then they are 4th on Pro Football Focus heading into week number 9. That's going to do it for this edition here of the Matt Steel Podcast. Once again, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richie. For the Matt Steel Podcast on Twitter, it is simply at Matt Steel CGR and at Matt Steel Nation on Instagram. As always, leave you. Go be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. We out here. I gone. Have a good night. Be safe. And before I leave, all seriousness, regardless who wins this election real quick, please feel free to send me a message on my Facebook page. Just continue to be safe. Take care of yourself in the good spot, regardless who the winner is, whether it's Trump or Biden. I don't care who it is. Let's make sure we're taking care of one another at the end of the day and not overreacting, because at the end of the day, there are some things that are above our heads, but at the same time, we do got an obligation to set examples and standards as we try and push positive change. Love you guys. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Take care.